Hey folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my micro-scale Midtown, South Central New York. Took me a few takes to get that sentence right. This is all built onto a 32 by 32 base plate and includes 118 individual buildings, which are all roughly based on the real buildings that exist on these streets. This is one of the lower density parts of New York with no super tall skyscrapers that rival the focal point of my MOC, which is of course the Empire State Building on West 34th Street. Midtown Manhattan is an expensive place to live, but for good reason, especially in this area, as not only are there major landmark buildings to enjoy, the New York Public Library is close by, Madison Square Gardens, Broadway, 5th Avenue, the largest Macy's in America, good schools and great transport links. No wonder rent is so high. Back in the 30s, New York looked very different from today. The Empire State Building soon became a symbol of the city and the USA when completed in 1931 and remained the tallest building in the world for 40 years with its 102 floors and 443 meter height. The enormous building was constructed in just 18 months at a cost back then of $40 million, equivalent to $500 million today, and believe it or not, it was 45 days ahead of schedule and $20 million under budget. It overtook the Chrysler Building as the tallest building and was only surpassed when the World Trade Center was built in the 70s. Today, it's the 9th tallest building in the USA. Lego have made various versions in the past and they're all excellent, but I personally loved the recent architecture skyline version. It's a really nice scale, especially for my style of micro builds, and it's a simple build yet very accurate. For this MOC, as I've done in the past with other micro scale MOCs, I studied maps, mostly Rand McNally maps, but the most useful of course is Google Maps. So to kind of fit onto a 32 by 32 base plate, my MOC includes a portion of 35th Street to 31st Street, including part of Broadway and 5th Avenue. The biggest advantage about using Google Maps of course is Street View, and it's pretty up to date, so we can get a good idea of each building on each street. So Broadway is notable as it cuts across these streets at an angle and creates an unusual road for the otherwise very grid-like roads in New York. Here it is on my MOC, and just to the north is West 34th Street, which is 2 studs wide as it's a larger thoroughfare, and this area here is known as Koreatown. To the east is 5th Avenue, which is a very famous street with fashion boutiques. It's also known for the huge public library 5 blocks north from here. As I was saying, Street View is great, but at the scale, I can't include every building I see. I have to shave off a few, so if an adjacent building looks similar to the next, I just blend them into one another. Of course, the more standout skyscrapers get a faithful recreation though, and any buildings that are really obviously different in colour, then I'll try to recreate them as well. I mean, hey, it's just a Lego display, but you know, I believe it should be as accurate as possible, so that gives it the MOC authenticity and recreates the neighbourhood around Empire State properly. So for example, off Broadway in the Nomad district, there is this new 38-story Virgin Hotel, this blue panel and glass skyscraper, only recently finished construction, and I really like its odd design which has off-centre sections. It's quite a nice build in Lego pieces and a nice blue colour. So I try my best to get it as accurate as possible. I can't do this for all the buildings, especially the smaller ones as I was saying, so they're a bit more basic, but you get the idea. They're as close in shape, colour and, well, rooftop as well as possible. Interestingly, in this part of Midtown, the city zoning restrictions are still in place from back in the day when the Empire State Building was constructed. This means that no building in close proximity to it can surpass 50 stories. This is to prevent obstructed views of the building, and it means it really does tower over the neighbourhood, unlike other parts of the city where skyscrapers are tightly packed next to each other. But you know, even with the lower height buildings, it still makes for an interesting hodgepodge of architectural styles, and there's plenty of older 6, 8 and 12 story buildings that wouldn't look out of place in Glasgow, Manchester or Liverpool, and actually plenty that were designed by the same architects from the 1890s to the 1940s. It's a really nice part of Manhattan. For my micro builds, I like to frame all the sides with black slopes around the edge. I like this more finished look, but it also makes it easier to pick up. However, one day I may actually link them all up and make a large Manhattan MOC. I have seen this done before, however, and I wouldn't want to straight up copy what someone has done before. That said, I've never seen anything at this micro scale that is totally accurate, so I'd love to know what you think. Do you think it would be cool to do a large, full Manhattan Island MOC? Let me know in the comments. New York is surprisingly colourful as a city, but it does have a lot of tan, dark tan and brown buildings, and quite a few white ones too, so prior to building I fished out plenty of these colours to begin with. But the most important pieces are undoubtedly trans-clear plates and tiles. I definitely need them the most. I particularly like these three buildings here, which all use a combination of these pieces to good effect. I have tried in the past to use a stud height for each floor, but it doesn't work in scale, but it does give a kind of illusion of floors and windows. The New York sign I used this time around is pretty cool. It's actually a printed 2x6 tile from the recent postcard set, which features a tiny New York with its own representation of the Empire State Building, Freedom Tower and Brooklyn Bridge. I really like these sets and I hope they do more, especially one of Edinburgh in the future. That would be cool. One with the 4th rail bridge, that would be great. So I really like the way this looks, and it was great to flesh out the neighbourhood around West 34th Street. On display, this is fantastic, and once I got sat down in the parts room, it actually didn't take me that long to finish. I started with the road layout, and once that was done, it took me around 6 hours to finish the bulk of the city. I left it overnight and came back to it in the morning with fresh eyes and another look at aerial photos, so I rejigged a few buildings and made adaptations, but it was done in another hour. To be honest, I probably spent more time on Google Maps planning it out and taking photos of buildings on each street and just wandering around looking at stuff. Anyways, thanks for watching until the end, and if you enjoyed the video then please give it a thumbs up. It really gives me a boost to get a few likes on a video. And thank you so much for taking the time out to watch this video. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one, and if you enjoyed this you might like some of my other micro builds, so check them out if you've got time. Bye!